From jump scares to slasher to pure psychological horror. These are the games that we play, and here are 10 of the scariest games ever to embrace our consoles. I am Dr. Nebula, and this is my scary top 10. Number 10. The Evil Within. Play as Crimson City Police Detective Sebastian Castellanos and investigate the horrific mass murders at Beacon Mental Hospital. You start the game with your police partner Joseph Oda and junior detective Julie Kidman, but don't expect them to hang around for long, as you are quickly sucked into a nightmarish world full of traps, demonic creatures, and a disfigured mad scientist by the name of Ruvik. Tiptoe your way through 15 disturbing chapters, all orchestrated to the beautiful yet haunting piano masterpiece that is Debussy's Clair de Lune. Feel your heart actually stop beating during its boss fights, from the masked psycho wielding a chainsaw that chases you until Sebastian is literally gasping for air and begging for a quick death, to the multi-limbed crawling creature that will teach you the real meaning of fear as she screams her way towards you. Upgrade yourself in an unusually sadistic way to ensure you have what it takes to survive this dark, grimy nightmare of a game. And if you can handle the stress of gory death scenes, heart-in-mouth action, and a chilling storyline, then the Crimson City Police Department want you. I have a feeling they will have some vacancies. Number 9. Soma. Whilst number 9 on this list might not have the obvious traits of a horror game, once you play Soma, you will quickly realise why a psychological horror can cut so much deeper, even without the blood and gore. Simon Jarrett is the protagonist in this 2015 release, but just so you feel the game's personality, let's put you in the story. Imagine, in 2015, after a near-fatal accident, you are left with bleeding on the brain. You go to a research facility for treatment where you suddenly black out. You wake up in 2104, nearly 100 years later, in an underwater facility to discover that 1 year ago the Earth was devastated by a comet. Humans no longer exist. Instead, all survivors had their brains scanned and were turned into biomechanical mutants. All of humanity's thoughts were uploaded into a digital black box called the Ark, which houses a simulated world for all those humans to continue living. You later learn that you too are a mutant. Your body gave up years ago, but your thoughts survived and have also been uploaded to the Ark. The Ark must be fired into space, which forms the basis of the game. But when you eventually launch the Ark, you suddenly realise that your mutant body will remain in this underwater facility for eternity, whilst your conscious lives its life on the Ark, blissfully unaware of your tormented existence. What this game lacks in weaponry, thirst for blood, and loud action is greatly overshadowed by the silence and realisation of the meaning and importance of life. Enjoy. Number 8. Resident Evil HD Remaster. Should a fond memory remain just that? For that large school playground that you think you remember so vividly seems oddly small and somewhat disappointing on return 20 years later. Resident Evil, the 1996 game that started the survival horror revolution, needs no introduction, but is it as good as we remember? Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine become trapped in a mansion while searching for their fellow Bravo teammates of the Special Police Unit STARS. You wander the mansion collecting clues, solving puzzles, and of course, encountering flesh-eating zombies and a whole host of other atrocities that have been infected with the T-virus, Umbrella Corporation's highly contagious and mutagenic biological agent. Now, fast forward 19 years and we get not just a full HD version, but a remastered version with a larger map, new items, and of course, new and more persistent enemies, including the infamous Crimson Heads, the fast and deadly super zombie. All of the original scares remain intact, and this wonderfully dark, jumpy zombie fest has a truly nostalgic feel to it. This will scare you, I'm certain of it. But to answer my original question, should a fond memory remain just that? I say yes. Let your mind remember it. Let your mind add to it. Let your mind enjoy it how it was. But if you can take that memory, feed it, enlarge it, enhance it, and make it a hell of a lot scarier, then I, for one, say let's do it. Number 7. Fear. Number 7 on this list is the highly rated 2005 first-person shooter survival horror, Fear. The game revolves around the first encounter assault recon, or FEAR for short, a special forces team called in to deal with a major threat. A rogue psychic cannibal named Paxton has taken control of an experimental unit of telepathically controlled clone super soldiers known as replicas. You play as Fear's point man, a soldier with superhuman reflexes, and must clear out the replica's headquarters whilst witnessing strange and eerie hallucinations and a creepy little girl called Alma. The game makes excellent use of its ambient lighting and dark maps to provide a truly terrifying experience. The fighting was amazing for its time. Bullets, bullet holes, blood and body parts by the dozen, but it is the dreamy paranormal scenes that make this game shine. Stuttering hallucinations of ghostly figures, accompanied by frightening sounds that will make you think twice about turning the next corner. If an action-packed survival horror is your thing, then Fear is for you, and Fear will engulf you. Number 6. Outlast. In 2013, Red Barrels developed and released a game that sent shockwaves through the survival horror community, Outlast. You play the role of freelance journalist Miles Upshaw, who is tipped off about inhumane experiments taking place at Mount Massive Asylum, a psychiatric hospital deep in the mountains of Lake City, Colorado. Now, like a complete idiot, or to make the game last more than 20 seconds, Miles decides to head there to investigate. On arrival, he finds mutilated bodies of the staff and finds a dying officer who explains that its crazy inmates known as variants are running around and butchering everyone. Probably time for Miles to go home. Or not. No, instead, he wanders aimlessly through this unearthly asylum, uncovering countless horrors along the way. So why did Outlast win the hearts of many horror gamers? Well, for starters, this game brings a whole new meaning to the phrase survival horror, due to the chilling fact that you have no weapons, you can't fight, and your only means of surviving is to hide, sneak, or run. The other part is just how dark it is inside the asylum, but that's fine because you're equipped with a night vision camcorder. But let me tell you, the fear that invades your body when you're in a dark room with eerie sounds and you take your first peek through the camcorder is intense. This one will make you bite your nails down to your knuckles. Enjoy. Number 5. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation differs to all the other games on this list because we are already aware of the massively popular Alien franchise, so we know what we are up against. But knowing that you're up against a huge dribbling xenomorph isn't really any consolation. You assume the role of Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley. You learn that the flight recorder from your mother's ship has been located and is being held aboard a space station. You join a team who are tasked with retrieving this flight recorder so you can learn the fate of your beloved missing mother. Sounds simple. Despite the fact that you get cut off from the rest of the team and now must fight your way through hostile humans and angry androids whilst playing a deadly game of cat and mouse with the fear-inducing xenomorph. The alien can't be killed, which is where this sadistic fun comes into play. You must use a motion tracker to detect its movements and use stealth to get by, but the alien is attracted by sound, so using your bleeping motion tracker for too long will ultimately end with the xenomorph sprinting towards you, baring its teeth, probably knowing that you'll now need a new pair of pants. Where's Predator when you need him? Number 4. PT. Probably the most confusing game on this list is PT, but I'm not referring to the gameplay, instead to the ongoing debate as to what this game should be classed as. PT simply stands for Playable Teaser, but players and journalists are not sure whether it was a teaser, a video game, demo, or an interactive experimental film. But winning Game of the Month and Best Horror Game of the Year awards, does it really matter? Anyway, PT centres on an unnamed protagonist who awakens in a creepy corridor of a haunted house. You are only able to make your way down the L-shaped corridor with only 2 other places to venture, a bathroom and a staircase, before the game loops back on itself, starting you off at the same point in the corridor. It soon becomes evident that you have to solve puzzles to progress, but progressing simply means starting off again in the corridor, only this time things will be a lot more disturbing. Japanese-style horror cuts at you with its psychological torment and really beats you down until you are left feeling claustrophobic, shaken and close to tears. Only when you make it through the seemingly endless loop do you realise that this was a demo for the new addition to the Silent Hill franchise called Silent Hills. The problem is the demo was soon pulled and the game instalment was cancelled. So you are lucky if you know someone that still has this 2014 playable teaser, but you might be unlucky if you actually play it. Number 3. Dead Space. When the USG Ishimura, a mining ship in space, sends out a distress signal, the legend that is Isaac Clarke, a systems engineer, goes to investigate with his team on board the USG Kellyan. But when the Kellyan encounters a malfunction and crashes into the landing dock of the Ishimura, the crew are attacked by monsters, leaving only Isaac and 2 of his comrades to finish the job. You control Isaac and are guided around the Ishimura by your remaining team, finding clues along the way as to what happened here, and fighting off a whole horde of demonic creatures. Unlike a few games on this list, you won't encounter any psychological trauma with Dead Space, but I guarantee that you will spend a good portion of your time rooted to the spot, talking yourself into moving forward. This 2008 release brings you probably more jump scares than any other game, with enemies that run towards you at speeds that induce twitching and terror, and death scenes that make you groan. This is very action-orientated horror, but my personal opinion is that the fighting in this game is epic. The weapons are a joy to use, and the use of the stasis ability to slow enemies down whilst grinding off their limbs with the firing rotary saw is enough of a reason to play this game alone. But while all of the above sounds fun, be warned, there is a real reason that Dead Space made it to number 3 on this list. Number 2. Amnesia, The Dark Descent. This one wins the silver medal for its chilling revelation of the one thing that can terrify us all, the fear of the dark. In Amnesia, The Dark Descent, you play as Daniel, who wakes up in Brennenburg Castle with no memory of who he is or why he is there. As you progress through the game, you regain some of these lost memories by way of artifacts and horrific hallucinations, until the unbearable truth of why he is there hits you like a truck. The game revolves around an afraid of darkness mechanism, meaning if you spend too long in the dark, then your sanity bar decreases and you face the risk of passing out, leaving you vulnerable, meaning you have to balance the time you spend in darkness with the time you spend in the light. On the surface, this sounds simple, but you will quickly realise that although the darkness is terrifying, being in the light puts you at greater risk of being spotted by one of the terrifying monsters lurking within the castle, and when they spot you, they come at you quickly. You have no weapons, so this game truly exploits our feeling of helplessness, and slowly creeping through the shadows of this grim castle will take its toll on your sanity, with monstrous sounds being heard way before you have the courage to shine a light to investigate. Amnesia. It truly is a dark descent into a realm of terror. That's 9 down, and just one more to go. But before we see what's topped the list this week, I just wanted to thank you for tuning in. If you can do me the honour of subscribing and turning on your notifications, then I would be eternally grateful. By supporting this channel, it helps me to work on future videos tailored to what you, my viewers, want to see. How about answering the following question and leaving a comment below? Join me, Dr. Nebula, and let me take you to some of the darkest places known to man. Thank you. Number 1. Silent Hill 2. Often considered the greatest horror game ever made, and even said to be one of the finest video games of all time, Silent Hill 2 is simply in a league of its own. Play as James Sutherland, who receives a letter from his deceased wife telling him to come to Silent Hill. Once there, you encounter all of the trademark Silent Hill enemies, from bubblehead nurses and mannequins to the infamous Pyramid Head. The game's psychological storyline is enough to have you rocking in your chair, but then throw in a terrifying fog-filled town overrun by truly nightmarish creatures and a soundtrack that will send shivers down your spine, and you have a truly terrifying masterpiece. It's exactly what you'd expect from a Japanese horror franchise that seems to enjoy a three-way beatdown of heart, mind and soul. Silent Hill seems to be capable of avoiding these traditional jump scare tactics and instead invading your mind with a totally different, longer lasting fear. And when you hear that siren go off, you'd be lying if you said your body didn't tense up, readying yourself for the darker, evil and more sinister Silent Hill to take form. This one will take its title of number 1 scariest film to its grave, and it will try to take you with it.